Hey there, I'm Joe Carter. If you've ever popped the hood and thought, where do I even start? You're in good company. Around here, we take the mystery out of car repair, one fix at a time. Whether you're a beginner or just looking to sharpen your skills, there's something here for you. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you're into learning without the headaches. All right, that's enough from me. Let's get into
Consider
it.
the main places from which antifreeze leaks, as well as ways to eliminate the causes that provoke increased consumption of coolant. Antifreeze is a technical liquid for which there is no normative consumption. But as practice shows, evaporation of 100 to 300 grams, depending on the modes of operation of the internal combustion engine and the quality of the coolant, for 10,000 kilometers can be considered acceptable. But only if there is no suspicion of getting coolant into the oil. Ignoring such a malfunction will lead to wear of vital rubbing pairs and the need for expensive, major repairs. How to find a leak. The sequence of checking possible leakage points, cover and coolant reservoir. Sometimes a crack in the body appears in a hidden place, so carefully inspect the cavity under the tank. If the crack is small, antifreeze may drip only when the engine is warm and the system is pressurized. The pressure relief valve should only open at the pressure specified in your car's repair manual, usually 1.2 to 1.8 atm. For the exhaust and 0.2 atm. For the air intake into the system. It is the delayed operation or jamming of the relief valve often becomes the cause of increased pressure in the system and cracking of the tank. Through the valve jammed in the open position, certain components of the coolant will constantly evaporate, resulting in increased consumption. Visible places of hose connections, through which the coolant circulates. Attention should be paid to the hoses themselves, as they can be rubbed by parts of the attachment. If the leak is not detected at a cursory inspection, consider the lower part of the underhood space from the inspection pit. Leaks of a characteristic color help to locate depressurization unmistakably. Radiators, main and salon. There should not be wet spots on the honeycomb, places of putting on the spigots. Cooling system pump. The cylinder head gasket. Other places that are embedded in the antifreeze circulation system. For example, turbocharger cooling, autonomous coolant heaters, Webasto. Indirect signs. Antifreeze leakage does not always occur without a trace. The main symptoms, the appearance of thick, white smoke from the exhaust pipe and air escaping through the coolant tank at high speeds, are guaranteed signs of antifreeze getting into the engine's cylinder. Complementing the symptoms of the breakdown of the cylinder head gasket is a white deposit on the spark plug, sometimes in the form of flakes. Often in such cases, the car is constantly overheating, as evidenced by the frequent activation of the radiator fan. With such a malfunction, the car can get on its own to the nearest service station, if the coolant leakage does not lead to its penetration into the engine lubrication system. An increase in the level of the internal combustion engine oil, or a sudden cessation of consumption, which was before the appearance of foreign-colored flecks on the dipstick indicate that antifreeze goes into the engine oil. At a high percentage, the lubricant turns into an emulsion which can be observed not only on the dipstick, but also on the oil filler cap. Also, the process can occur in reverse sequence. Oil appears in antifreeze. It is strictly forbidden to operate the car with such a malfunction. If the heater radiator is depressurized, there is a characteristic smell of antifreeze in the passenger compartment, the noise insulation. And mats at the feet of the passenger or driver are constantly damp. Glasses fog up even in dry weather. But instead of the usual condensate, a thin greasy film is formed on the surface, which is difficult to wipe off. This is how the coolant evaporates. Causes of antifreeze getting into the cylinders: breakdown of the cylinder head gasket. The reason for this may be the poor quality of the gasket itself, as a result of which the chemical components of the coolant corrode the material. Indirectly, the breakdown contributes to the wrong moment and sequence of tightening the bolts of the cylinder head. Eruption of the section of the cylinder block between the coolant channel and the suprapiston space by Toxel. The process of chemical destruction of this type is called coolant cavitation. Deformation of the cylinder head caused by engine overheating. Too low a torque on the cylinder head bolts. If the rules for tightening the cylinder head bolts have not been observed, antifreeze entering the cylinders may not show up until some time later. In any case, the exact cause will only appear after disassembly. Tow gets into the oil due to similar factors. Note that depressurization of the connection between the cylinder head and the BC is only one of the few causes of mixing antifreeze and engine oil. Repairing a gasket failure will only require removing the cylinder head, installing a new gasket and reassembling. If the butt plane is destroyed, it is necessary to grind the BC. On a special machine a layer of metal is ground off, the size of which depends on the depth of the damage. Note that there are repair tolerances that determine the minimum height of the cylinder block. The rule is also relevant for the cylinder head, from which a layer of metal is also removed when it is warped. Pump. If the antifreeze flow you noticed could not evaporate, and in the area of the timing is observed characteristic leakage, you can safely sentence the coolant pump. The design of the pump provides a special valve through which the tow flows out after a breach of the seal, worn or incorrectly installed gland. This prevents the penetration of coolant to the bearings of the pump, since the ingress can provoke jamming of the pump and the breakage of the timing belt. Eliminate the leak in this case will only help to replace the pump. How to eliminate the leak? Natural aging of the rubber, temperature fluctuations and vibrations lead to the fact that the rubber sockets in the places where they are tightened with clamps are destroyed. Another answer to the question, why antifreeze goes away. In some cars in the system are used metal sockets. Under the influence of the environment, they rust and begin to leak coolant. Repair consists in replacing damaged elements, for which sometimes it is necessary to completely drain the antifreeze. What to do if the tow goes away because of a hole in the radiator? Replace with a new one or professionally weld it. With your own hands, a small hole in a copper radiator can be tinned with a soldering iron and solder. For aluminum heat exchangers, cold welding is used. Before processing, the surface must be dried and degreased. A small hole can be sealed with plasticine, if the trouble caught you on the road. Earlier we described in detail how to eliminate the leak in the radiator. We strongly advise you not to use sealant that eliminates radiator leakage. It can clog the cooling system and disable the pump. Such sealants can be used only in extreme cases, after which, most likely, you should be ready for problems with the cooling of the internal combustion engine. Antifreeze classification engine cooling system. In conclusion, understanding where antifreeze goes is crucial for maintaining your vehicle's health and performance. Whether it's circulating through the engine, dissipating heat, or even leaking due to wear and tear, knowing its journey helps you identify potential issues before they become serious problems. Regular checks and maintenance can ensure that your cooling system operates efficiently, ultimately prolonging the life of your vehicle. Thank you for watching, and remember to stay informed about your car's needs for a smoother ride.